Hi! Okay, this is going to be my first video, so fun. I have been playing JRPGs all my life, and really I had just beat Final Fantasy VII like a few weeks ago at this point, and one of my favorite things to do in JRPGs, I'm such a completionist, is I really like to see and do everything that a game offers, okay? And so of course, when I was playing 7, and this is the first time in 2020, and I am a 90s baby, I had ever played 7. I had known about it all my life, but I just never got the opportunity to play it until now. I did play a ported version, and when I was prepping for Emerald and Ruby, first of all, there is a ton of information out there on the internet right now, but it kind of felt overwhelming, which is endearing because it just shows just how much people love this game, and I just really like that. But there was just so much, and what would have really helped me is like knowing from start to finish how to prepare for Ruby, and maybe you're of the opinion of, well, just wipe with KOTR or Knights of the Round. And I mean, yeah, you can wipe with KOTR, but I wanted to do something a little bit more challenging than that, and that's just a personal me thing. And I did. I beat both Ruby and Emerald without KOTR, and I wanted a stat max. And I come from, so I had played 10. 10 is my game. And you do need to stat max for penance if you're ever going to go up against penance. And so I was just thinking that Emerald and Ruby would be on the same level of difficulty, and in some respects, Ruby certainly is. I kind of just wanted to walk y'all through what post-game would look like, you know, if you're trying to do an Emerald and Ruby run without KOTR, because you can get creative. And then I also want to talk about potential things that I would try further than saying no to KOTR. So the first thing that I thought that I had to do is I thought I had to get everybody to 99, which isn't really a requirement. I think I was at like 70-ish for, you know, right before you go to face final boss. I thought that I would need to get to 99. Most other Final Fantasies you do need to get to a 99 or a 99 equivalent, since 10 doesn't actually have levels if you think about it. Anyways, so I did that, and I spent about 10 hours leveling to about 90 for my party, and really you don't need to do that. The stat maxing that you're going to do, if stat maxing is something that you want to do, you're going to get all the gil that you want, you're going to get all the levels that you want, and you don't have to rotate people in to get the in-party EXP bonus. You will spend so much freaking time stat maxing. Everyone will be 99, even if you just keep the same 3 people in your party. Of course, you know, if you don't want to stat max, then I would say, yeah, 99 everybody. And you can do that just running around Medial on end until it's done. What I would actually recommend if I were to start from scratch, post-game, wherever you end up, and first of all, I'm not creating any new information here, and for a long time I didn't think like I could contribute to the Final Fantasy community at large, because I felt like, you know, there's already so much information out there. But what I think I'm able to contribute is kind of JRPG information at large, which could be really fun. So I'm kind of like, I think my specialty is going to be probably like battle mechanics, or understanding like how battle works, and then being able to compare and contrast games and like thought ideas of what the developers wanted to do with the game. So anyways, and especially like knowing how 10's battle works versus 7's battle, that's just fun for me. So and that will be like another video. You don't have to level to 99 and do that first. And I thought about it because I was like, okay, well, I won't have to farm extra just to get to that extra 99. Let's actually talk about what you're going to need before you start stat maxing. So you're going to need Yuffie's Conformer, which you can get in the sunken, I almost said southern, in the sunken Galnica, in that left side room. And I'll show you, it's right here, okay? So if I guess you could stat max without it, but it will just take way longer, because Yuffie's Conformer is the only thing that will let you hit quad 9 and morph. and morph is going to be how you collect your stat orbs. What are they called? Oh my god. Sources. There we go. Yeah. When you're ready, you can defeat the ultimate weapon, and not only will you get Cloud's weapon after defeating that guy, but you'll get access to the Ancient Forest. And when you get access to the Ancient Forest, you can get Cloud's triple AP weapon called the Apocalypse. I'm not going to detail how to navigate through it. There's guides. I'm sure there's YouTube videos. I would definitely look at that. Some guides that I'm going to link will include the Ancient Forest and how to get through it anyways. You can also, if you collected it during the story, Sid has a triple AP weapon called Scimitar, and you can only get it in the Junon underwater reactor. And I used a rune blade until I realized where the Apocalypse was, and rune blade is double AP. We can also use rune armor, which is double AP, and that's effective. It's just, you know, double versus triple, just to help you out a little bit more. Another thing that I'm going to recommend is getting a gold chocobo, and I'll link down the guide that I used, because even if you're not, I'm going to train y'all as if like you're not using KOTR, but even if you're not going to use KOTR, I would still recommend getting it so that you can at least get the AP on it, especially if you ever plan to use Barret. And I have no shame using a guide, okay? I did not use the W item trick for my playthrough. I just felt like that was cheating. That's just a personal thing. If that is something that you used, great, you know, it's your game, I don't care. It's just not something that I personally wanted to use. When it comes to post-game stuff, why reinvent the wheel? And obviously, like, you're not better than me if you're watching my video referencing guides. Like, you're looking for some help, right? So, and again, this game is like 20 years old. So I have nothing new to contribute, but I just felt like it was so much information, and I love that. But oh my gosh, what do I do first? Where do I start? And so that's what my aim is with this video. So again, I would recommend, actually require the Conformer, the Apocalypse, the Scimitar if you happen to grab that during your playthrough. But my farming party was Cloud, Yuffie, and Sid for those reasons. Cloud and Yuffie did damage. When Cloud had his rune blade, or I think I put him with Omni Slash just to get a little bit further damage output, especially when you're about to farm in the Gelnica, and we'll get to that in a second. When I had him with his ultimate weapon, I was able to kill just a little bit faster. I didn't always get it down in 2 turns, but usually most of the time, especially with full HP, which we'll talk about party composition and why you would pick certain characters. Of course, Cloud you can't really, but Cloud's damage output is best when he has full HP. And then Yuffie, of course, with her quad 9 and the Conformer, like, must, especially if you're doing 255 for everybody, and I just did 3. Sid was actually my healer, so, which felt weird, because I think he's like a Dragoon type from what I read. But the goal of this, of course, is to make everybody's stats the same, so their jobs essentially become pretty interchangeable. And let's talk about that. So I want to talk about party composition and why I picked the trio that I did. Most people pick Cloud, again, you can't change them out, but they add in Yuffie and Vincent, and I did the same thing. If I had spent a little bit more time on it, I probably would have swapped Yuffie for Barret, especially on the Ruby fight. So, and again, these are all linked below, but so this was a very, very helpful just chart for me, and basically let's just go down the list. And this is why I picked, again, you know, max stats. Everybody's going to have the same thing at this point. So what is the true difference between our characters once they're max statted? Cloud, again, you can't change. It would have been nice, you know, to do Barret, Vincent, and Yuffie, but, you know, Cloud has a damage multiplier of 3, or 3 times damage at full HP. But yeah, Barret, that missing score, which you can get if you're going to use Barret, if you're going to take the time to master those 8 KOTRs, you get that when you're in Midgar about to fight Hojo. So it's in a treasure chest and it is missable. Technically, you don't need to use 8 KOTRs, but it's definitely the most effective method. The requirement actually for him to get that 25 damage multiplier, to get that to get that 25x damage multiplier, it's going to be 2.5 million AP, and 8 KOTR satisfies that. So I would, even though technically you could satisfy it with other things if you have it, we could approximate it even, I would go with the 8 KOTR myself if I were to actually do that. I will say, just on a small note, so once you do collect KOTR at the top right of the map with your gold chocobo, just put it in one of your triple AP weapons and just keep it there and collect them, and then as you go along you can put those mastered KOTRs into Barret's missing score, so you're not taking up too much inventory space on the materia. I never really ran out of inventory space, and one of my goals was to master all materia. Anyways, so just stat maxing 3 people, Cloud, Yuffie, and Vincent, I was able to get 4 KOTR, 4.5 KOTR mastered by the time I was ready to run for Emerald and Ruby. So, I mean, it wouldn't have been that much longer if I wanted to stat max the full party. If you are planning on stat maxing the full party, you'll definitely have a 8 KOTR by the end of it. So, anyways, Yuffie, and I think people pick Yuffie for her dex, especially if you're not max statting. She has high dex and high luck. And one of the other FAQs, and I am a game facts, I call them game facts, you may say game FAQs, but I'm a game facts lurker. And Terrence, actually, you may have heard of him or his guide. He really breaks down the mechanics of battle, and one of my favorite sections was actually when he talks about time. It's really worth the read, especially if you are stat maxing or trying to get by with what you can without going for the full 255. But yeah, Yuffie's stats are pretty average, but she does tend to have higher dex and higher luck, and dex is how you get more turns in the game. Dex runs time, essentially. So, even if you're not going to stat max, like, she's very useful for that. But I picked Yuffie because she does have this extra advantage compared to the rest against specifically Emerald. So I did stat max her. It does not apply to Ruby as far as I'm aware, it's just Emerald. And then Vincent, so most people pick Vincent because they like that crit that he has. And then, so this is straight from Steve's guide, right? He does mention somewhere in the guide about getting to 65,000 kills, okay? And, I thought that I had gotten that, but actually I don't think I had after I read what he said about, in order to do that, it takes like 200 hours. And I really only spent, because he wasn't in my farming party, I spent a total of like 40 hours stat maxing and mastering materia, which was just 40 hours, right? Like, that's a whole week basically. But it really took me more like a month. Actually, I think I added an extra 100 hours. It was a lot. I'd have to look at my timestamps again. Actually, that doesn't help because I clocked at the 99. But anyways, I think I got Vincent to about 5,000 kills, I'd say, and that's just being generous. So I don't think anyone, and Steve doesn't think anyone, so therefore I don't, but I don't think anyone's gotten that 32 damage multiplier. And to be able to even prove that would just be, yeah, he said rule of thumb 200 hours you would have to put in, which is just insane. And if you are doing it on the PS1, you probably don't have an accurate timestamp, but at least on the Switch it would tell me, tells me on my profile how much time I spent on the game. So for me, and for a lot of people, I picked Cloud, Yuffie, and Vincent. I would keep that party makeup for Emerald, again, just for Yuffie's advantage on Emerald. Though, if I had 8 KOTRs, I'd probably put Barret. And you could do it without the underwater materia. You don't need it. You can get it if you want it by talking to the Calm Traveler and giving him a guidebook. I collected the underwater materia just to have a complete collection, not a requirement. Okay, so what I would do then, once you have all of the items that you need, okay, You don't have to level, right? But the first stat you're probably going to go with is going to be strength, which you can just go to Gungaga, and if you go right around here, you can just run around, farm until you're done. It took me about an hour per character to get this, so it's not bad, especially compared to what's in store. And then I went to Vitality as the next one, which is another really easy one to get. You can just go, there are a couple different spots that you can go to, but I just went to the dirt area next to Medial, and I just ran around there. You don't always get these spiral guys, but their RNG is pretty high to proc, so it's not terrible either. Next ones that I would recommend would be Dex and Luck, which now we're finally in the Southern Galnica. And technically all of these stats you can farm in the Southern Galnica. I keep saying Southern Galnica. Why do I keep saying that? In the Sunken Galnica. And in that first room where you possibly fought the Turks, it's this hallway area. You can farm Dex and Luck. You'll probably overfarm Luck, and so I just gave that to other party members. And it doesn't take that long either to get Dex. But it's really helpful once you have that. Magic and MDef though, those are going to be the toughies, and that's why stat maxing took me as long as it did. Now you do have two options. I would go with for stat maxing Magic and MDef, or excuse me, hold on. Magic and Spirit. I always call it MDef Spirit. One quick note on Spirit, it's probably one of the most important stats to max, aside from Dex, because again, Dex controls how many turns you get at the time of battle, things like that. But I would say the second most important one would be Spirit, because what your Spirit value is the only determinant against your defense of magic. The armor boosters don't actually apply. For whatever reason, it just doesn't actually do anything. So your only true defense against magic attacks is your Spirit stat. So that would be really important, especially against Ruby, who is a little bit more on the magic side. Steve recommends going to Cloud Special Battle Arena series, and you can just farm them through that battle series, and that's true, and you're guaranteed a 100% RNG rate to get them in battle. I mean, you can just morph them and great, you got it. That is probably faster on time, but I was trying to do as much as I could and not just like waste all the time. Even though in the Sunken Galnica, even though I wasn't guaranteed always getting the unknown 3s, I think they're these guys, or the people with the tentacles, at the unknown 4s, even though you don't get them every round, and that's going to be in the back room where you found Sid's weapon. Anyways, while you're not guaranteed always getting an unknown 2 or an unknown 3, each battle you're still getting AP from, and that triple AP will help you with mastering your materia, and it'll just make it easier and I guess more efficient for what you're trying to do. So that took me probably about a month. And one thing I was really grateful for was I was playing on my Switch, so I could turn it to handheld and watch Netflix while I was stat maxing with triple speed. Because stat maxing is really just farming, which does not take, at least in 7, it does not take a lot of brain power. So I was able to kind of multitask. And then I kind of just want to point out a couple other things once you have your max stats. I would definitely always keep a KOTR in one of those triple AP weapons, whether it's Apocalypse or Scimitar, doesn't matter. Just always keep a KOTR in that, and then you'll slowly accrue, mastered ones. The ones that I used for Ruby, and you can kind of play around. I was kind of boring with my strategy, and for my strategy, again, I didn't want to do anything with KOTR, so I didn't even have it in my fight for Emerald. Technically I had it in my fight for Ruby, which I'll talk about in a second, but I didn't use it. but double cut becomes quad cut, and that was a necessity for me because I come from Final Fantasy X. 10 is my game, okay? So I am used to Pent 9, okay? And so to deal damage with quad 9, I was like, oh my god. So quad cut was a must for me. And then I did kind of experiment with Steve's recommendations of like, Emerald is weak against gravity, try that. But the damage, I consistently hit quad 9 with quad cut for just about every single attack. Yuffie wasn't as consistent as the boys, but that's okay. She still hit pretty high. And then final attack, just to help with party maintenance and rezzing and things like that. So those two were like my primary ones. And again, you know, you don't really want to have a lot of materia against Emerald. And I actually ended up using more than I needed for both fights. No. I was pretty tight on my thing. And technically one of the other strategies for Emerald is to just have 2 materia per character. You can do that, and then you're in lucky 7s. But again, I was hitting quad 9, so I didn't really care. I think I had a healer. I think I put Vincent in Chaos just because, and I was just consistent with my damage output. I do recommend, because Emerald is high on the HP, especially only getting, you know, up to 40k damage per turn, just keep track so you don't go insane. But Emerald is definitely the easier of the two by far. Okay, and I didn't use Underwater, but if you do, that's great. But you know, stat maxing makes Emerald very easy. As far as Ruby though, I kept my quad cuts for everybody, but I also built a master summon. And I didn't realize this, so I just want you to be aware. When I did my master summon, it ate my 4th KOTR. So right now in my file, I only have 3.5 mastered. But the mastered summon was actually really helpful for me because it gives you the unlimited summon ability, whereas if I were to just summon Hades, I only have 5 times to do that. So most people, to get around that, again, they don't want to put in the time to stat max, which, you know, is a personal choice. Total respect there. But you can farm dazers instead in the, not the ancient forest, but the ancient city. You know, right around there. It's the area just above Bone Village. But yeah, you can farm dazers there. They're pretty easy to farm. I think you can both get them from drops, steals, and potentially morph them. Anyways, so I had a master summon, but I would really love to see what I could do without stopping Ruby. I just want to see. Of course, I would probably put Barret in my party at that point and maxed out everybody, but that's for a later time. And then hero drinks. Let's talk about hero drinks, and let's talk about over limits. So there are a couple different ways that you can get hero drinks, which just further boost your stats, which looks pretty thick when you're already 255 across the board. So hero drinks will multiply your 255 times 100. So if you consume 4 of them, technically 120, but the game only accepts up to 100. So you can get 3 hero drinks naturally through the game, just running around and collecting treasure. So if you did a perfect file, you probably have 3 in your inventory right now if you got all 3 of them. Okay, so wait, you said 4. Yeah, so you can choose to do the W item trick, which there are a ton of videos on the W item trick. Me personally, I just didn't want to do that in my playthrough. That was just a personal choice. So the other way to get hero drinks is by farming chocobo races, which is not the easiest thing in the world to do because number one, it requires that you win the race, and then it requires luck that whatever item you win is a hero drink. So that would take a substantial amount of time. And for me, I was already stat maxed. I was like, you know what? Have fun. Just 3 hero drinks. So that's what I did. But I would say if I were to use W item, that would be the one that I would do it for, is the hero drinks, because chocobo racing, and I wish I enjoyed the golden saucer more, but I treated it more like a job, which is unfortunate. But if you like chocobo racing, well, there you go. Now you got an easy way to get hero drinks. And then the other thing, so Omni Slash I got, and Final Attack is something that you can get also from the Battle Arena, and Omni Slash. Yuffie's over limit, her level 4 one it's only, I think you get it from her side quest in Wutai, but I actually ended up using Doom of the Living because when you're stat max, you know, quad 9 is like a pretty standard number to see on your damage output. And her level 4 only processes one of those. Whereas Doom of the Living, I don't know how much it processes, but it's a lot. It's like Waka's attack rails, honestly, but better. So I just used Doom of the Living, and then I set Vincent's to Chaos. And that's really all that I did. I was reviewing this, and it looks like I was trying to get creative, so I made Yuffie a little bit more on the Meiji side. I didn't really use Mighty Guard or anything. Again, maybe because I had hero drinks, but I didn't really need them. I think if I were to not stop Ruby, number 1, I would get 9 more hero drinks to stat max that whole party, but then you know you can't die because then that hero drink will wear off. But I would probably use Mighty Guard a lot more. But then again, you know, if he's alive, he could do his like sand thingy and eject me. So I would probably hope for a Barret, or I could control that just by killing the other 2. But I would do a Barret solo if I were to not stop him, and just see what happens. Yeah, and that's kind of it. So I hope this was helpful to you. And I'll link the guides that I used, and I just wanted to organize it for someone that just felt overwhelmed with all the information that you could get in this game. So thank you for watching.